All right, now we're joined by the head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils, Bobby Hurley. Bobby, if you like, you make an opening statement. If not, we'll open the floor for questions.
Yeah. Well, travel, everything was smooth, and just everyone was very welcoming, and we're just thrilled to be in the NCAA tournament, and had a great practice earlier this morning, and just really geared up to play.
Questions for Coach Hurley? Yep, right here on the right.
Roger Rubin from New York Newsday.
Roger.
When you guys won and got into the NCAA tournament last year, in what ways did it change the program? In what ways did people see you guys differently?
Well, I think any time that you haven't consistently gone to the NCAA tournament, it becomes a little bit unexpected. But now for the players who were in the program last year, they went to the tournament, they experienced it. Going into this year, that's on our list, our goals to make the tournament again, and that's what our guys expected to do going into the season. So it kind of sets the tone and the standard for what you're trying to do.
How about the way that people outside see you, recruits, transfers, alumni?
Yeah, I mean our program is pretty energized at the moment. I think people are very enthusiastic about what we're building and where the direction of the program is going. Our attendance numbers were outstanding again this year at home, and there's great enthusiasm in our community about the team, and I think we have an exciting team. We're a fun team to watch, and our community's really gotten behind what we're doing, and we're recruiting better. We have we're bringing in some talented guys, and where Arizona State basketball is pretty relevant.
We'll here front right and then the left.
Doug Haller with The Athletic. Bobby, you mentioned before you left that you broke out the old highlight tapes of your Final Four runs with Duke. What was your message behind that, and when did you do it exactly?
That was a while ago. We didn't play well in one of our games, and I forget which game it was. It was some games that you play this year feel like they happened last season. As you stay in the moment all the time. But we didn't play well. I wanted to remind them of what you can accomplish, and how that changes your life if you could achieve and get yourself to the point where you have an opportunity to play in the tournament. But if you're not playing well enough in your regular season, then you're not going to have that chance that all 68 teams have right now. And I was able to capitalize and be on some great teams that cut down the nets. And I told the guys it's opened doors for me in the game of basketball that probably wouldn't have been open otherwise.
Go here on the left.
Bobby, a lot of people were surprised when you took the Arizona State job. How do you like it out there, and has it been kind of what you expected so far?
Yeah, I mean, I was familiar with the West Coast just from my playing days. I was out in Sacramento, so I mean, I obviously grew up in Jersey, but there was a familiarity with that area, and I just think the way that I coached, I thought would work in the Pac-12 in terms of the style of the conference. I view myself as a guy that likes to be somewhat creative on offense, and it's a league that is notorious for scoring points and getting up and down the floor and playing a faster style. It's not a league that's a rugged league that games get played in the 50s or something. So I just thought it was a good fit for me, and I looked at it whereas you have the weather, you have a huge school, the second biggest school in the country, and just an opportunity to tap into a place that has not really consistently, been a winner year in and year out. And I thought that there was a lot that I could sell to recruits just with the Pac-12 and the way that the Pac-12 has turned out NBA talent, over the last decade, and just all the success that the league has had in the past.
4 years in, are you happy with where the program is, or do you feel like you guys should be further along, or you're past where you thought you would be?
I mean, I thought we really had a breakthrough last year just with, our non-conference, and then, getting an opportunity to play in the tournament. And I think, this year, we went into this year talking about competing better in the conference. Like, we have to do a better job in our league, and I think we've taken another step in that direction. Just going 12-6 this year in the conference and finishing second, and so that was a goal of ours. So we're continuing to try and take steps as a program, and when you're in the NCAA tournament, we've made it now back to back. I think the guys are enthusiastic to play tomorrow, and we're trying to advance and continue to play.
Back right.
Expect to get out of Remy Martin coming off the injury, and how do you balance, the fact that you need to win to advance with the fact that he might need to play 2-3 games if you keep winning games?
Yeah, good question. With Remy, it was disappointing because we were playing so well, after the UCLA game in our league, and to have him in the first 2 minutes of the game, have a little pull there in the groin, where he was fractionally, the player that he normally would be in terms of his movement. He still is a warrior and stayed in there and stuck some shots against Oregon, but we needed him to be himself in order to beat Oregon. Oregon's playing at a high level right now. So, but he's had a few days, and he's got after it in treatment. And we had our meat and potatoes practice this morning, and he was moving great, and he was in every drill. So we anticipate he'll be ready to go tomorrow.
Back left here.
Jared Fialco from WRAL-TV. Just curious, you got one school from Durham, North Carolina in the building already. Wondering how much contact you still have with the other, more prominent school from that area, and what, if any, advice Mike Krzyzewski gives you nowadays?
I've talked to Coach at times, especially when I was at Buffalo. There was a good story there with us going into the conference tournament. It was my second year as a head coach, and my first year we lost in the first round. And I wanted to ask Coach, hey, what are you going to do this week? As you prepare for the ACC tournament, and I need to win my tournament to go to the NCAAs. And Coach said, hey, you know what, I would do very limited live work with your players. The last thing you need is for someone to get hurt. You got to keep your team fresh. You got to stick to the drills that you practice, but try and avoid, live reps. So as I'm going and getting ready for our game, I can't resist but to think that we may not be sharp enough. So I got to get my live reps. So I have our guys going, more live than I probably should. And my player of the year in the conference drives to his right hand and rolls his ankle. And now he's laying on the sideline, and then he's in a boot, and he's probably, 30-40% of what he normally would be, kid Justin Moss. But the rest of the guys had his back and picked him up and got us to the MAC championship that year. But I need to listen better to people that know a lot more than I do.
Here, front right.
Mark Herman from Newsday of New York. Growing up where you did, what did you and your buddies think of St. John's, and what does St. John's mean to you? And when you think of St. John's, what comes to mind?
Well, I mean, it's when I was growing up, that's when I kind of fell in love with basketball. I was a college basketball fan, a Big East fan, and I remember those matchups with Chris Mullin and Walter Berry and Mark Jackson, and they'd be going against Pearl Washington, and I was a point guard, and I'd seen those guys go at each other, or Georgetown and St. John's, and all these great matchups. And I remember all the Final Fours, all those Big East teams, going, and Villanova, beating Georgetown, and just so many great memories of of watching the Big East and watching St. John's and Chris Mullin.
Back in the right in the aisle.
Cheers, Newsell, KPNX. Just going off of that, what is your relationship like with Chris Mullin? And I know when you've been in basketball long enough, you kind of had connections with everybody. But Chris Mullin, possibly Buffalo, do you enjoy kind of facing teams or coaches that you have connections to?
I mean, I just think it's more about the players. For me, it's more about Zylan Cheatham and Lou Dort getting his first NCAA tournament experience, and Remy Martin is such a winner, and he wants to play in this event. The other stuff is not as meaningful. I have the utmost respect for Chris and the job he's done to get St. John's the NCAA tournament, and who he was as a player. Is a guy I always looked up to. When I was growing up in Jersey, and he was playing at St. John's, and then on to the NBA, and got a chance to play against him in the Dream Team when I was on the development team. So lot of good memories, you know, with regard to Chris.
Right here, front left.
Saying he remembers you playing very well in those workouts with the Dream Team. He thinks it really helped you, you know, for in terms of the NBA draft. What do you remember about those, you know, going up against, you know, that team and just kind of what your relationship is with Chris?
Yeah, so it was the best week of my life. You know, as a competitor and as a basketball player, you want to face like the best players that you can, and they were all in one gym for a week, and you got to see like what it kind of elevated me maybe to play the best that I've ever played in my life, just because of how good they were, and then how hard I trained to go there because I was scared to death that I was going to get embarrassed. So you really train and you get yourself ready, and then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you're right in that game, and it's and then to have like Penny Hardaway and Chris Webber and Grant Hill on your team, it made things a little easier for me. Allen Houston hit a few threes for us too. So our development team was strong. I mean, we were young, but, you know, really talented.
Back right.
I was going to ask you about that as well, but I'll switch gears a little bit. Can you imagine kind of being in his shoes and the emotional roller coaster of losing a brother and then getting your alma mater into the tournament like he has for the first time here, and what that must be like for a coach to go through that?
Yeah, it's really, you know, heartbreaking, and, you know, you know, but Chris is strong, and he's, you know, been through a lot, and I'm sure he's got the leadership to handle it, and I think he knows, you know, that as bad as he might feel and what he's going through, that he owes it to, you know, the kids that he coaches to get his team ready and get them to enjoy this moment. He was a part of so many special moments as a player, going to Final Four and just being one of the great all-time greats in the Big East. So I'm sure he wants his players to experience that as well.
You on your front right.
Bobby, there's an idea that that coaches who played at a high level may struggle because they can't bring out that work ethic in today's kids. Have you, in your experience, has that been a challenge for you at all to get kids to work maybe to the level that you worked as a player?
I feel like when I played, I maybe overachieved, and you know, I had people doubted me most of my career, and I had to work at it. I was fortunate to grow up in a household that you know, was a legendary coach that, you know, I had access to every day, and to direct me and give me the right ways to practice. But, you know, my dad pushed me and developed a work ethic in me to achieve what I achieved on the floor. So I know that you can't be a success, and you can't take the game as far as a lot of the guys that you coach want to take it if you don't have that drive and that work ethic. So, you know, we try and you know, through evaluation, see guys that want to get better, that want to work, and are serious about the game, and we try and identify that when we recruit guys and bring them into the program.
Right here on the right.
Roger Rubin from New York Newsday. Bobby, as a person who cared about basketball growing up in the greater New York area, how would you describe what St. John's meant to the New York basketball scene as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, you just remember just how electric, you know, the Garden was, you know, in those matchups, and just it was on par with you know, the Knicks at the time. You know, it was going to Final Fours, and, you know, and Coach Carnesecca had, you know, so much charisma with how he coached, and, you know, it was just it was a fun team to watch. They were a very exciting brand of basketball.
Right here on the right.
I know it's a quick turnaround and all, but is there a positive about coming here to play in the first four, or instead of waiting until Thursday or Friday to play?
Well, I mean, I'm considering. I mean, maybe should go and meet with a realtor and maybe look to buy a house here, because I'm here, you know, a couple of years now. So I might do that later today if I have time. But, you know, it's just to be here. It doesn't. I told our media yesterday. Send me anywhere. Send us anywhere. It's the NCAA tournament. We want an opportunity, you know, to compete and win games. I love how my team is playing down the stretch. We've we've won 6 out of 8. Our only 2 losses were to Oregon, who's really found something and playing at a high level. So I know these guys are hungry to get out on the floor and compete.
Right here on the left, still got one.
What worries you about St. John's, Bobby? What do they do that could give you guys problems?
Yeah, I mean, they're somewhat similar to my team last year in a lot of ways. They just like really got guys who could go off the bounce and attack the paint, and they have shooting, and they're very interchangeable. You know, just they switch a lot of stuff on defense. So, and they're very scrappy. They really have a New York way about, you know, just, you know, being a little undersized, but you know, figuring out how to get the job done, and then they have, you know, a dynamic player and in Pons, and you know, and toughness. Clark's tough guy, and Heron, and you know, so they, you know, we got to really take care of the basketball. It's something that we've been talking about because of how good St. John's could be in the open court if you turn it over.
Follow up.
They're like your team last year. It's not like you're facing something you're not familiar with?
It just, because they have so many guys on the floor that could hurt you from a distance and away from the basket, that's where the you know, the preparation and thinking about how you're going to defend the team like St. John's, because they are very unique. And so that's where the dilemma is for us, is, you know, with their size and guys that could penetrate and also shoot, like, how are we going to consistently and successfully guard them for 40 minutes?
Any further questions for Coach Hurley? Bobby, thank you for your
All right,
time.
guys,
Good luck
thank you.
tomorrow night.